All right, being a lifelong Massachusetts native, it's always a pleasure for me to chat with another native of the Commonwealth, although he lives in Florida now, but he is Boston strong after all, and he's back in action this Saturday night against Kevin Aguilar in Las Vegas. I like this fight a lot. Charles Rosa joins the program for the very first time. Charles, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Just got back from a nice run down to the beach, so, feeling good.
There you go. No rest for the wicked, I see. And you just fought around a month or so ago at UFC 249 against Bryce Mitchell. And we're getting right back after it this weekend. After missing so much time before the win over Manny Bermudez, I assume that you are loving this activity right now.
Yeah, that's what I love to do is to fight. I'm a fighter. When I was an amateur fighter, I used to fight every week. Every weekend. So, those times I fought 4 times in a month before, I had over 20 amateur fights, and I used to do those for free. So now that we're finally getting paid for these fights, I'm going to keep racking them up if I can. This is a good opportunity, a good fight. They're only you pretty much having like guys in the States fighting and stuff like that. So they need fighters. And, that's what I am. I'm a fighter. A lot of guys are kind of scared to step up, short notice, to take fights to protect their record and all this stuff. But, you look at guys like that have kind of inspired me, like Gilbert Burns and guys like that, guys that they pretty much get into almost a title shot, or, they're big stars now from taking short notice fights and stepping in on these fights that nobody wants to take. So, I'm excited to do that. And then the UFC, kind of cut a break for me, which is good because we're doing the fight at lightweight. So, Kevin Aguilar, my opponent, is a featherweight. I guess he said, he could make weight. I still would have been able to make weight this weekend, but, they said, hey, lightweight, can you do that? Kevin can't make weight in this short amount of time. I said, well, that's fine. There's no need for both of us to cut an extra 10 pounds if it's unnecessary. I wish fighting was always like this, but it is what it is. So,
There you go. So let's talk about the Bryce Mitchell fight, because it certainly wasn't the kind of fight you were hoping for. Bryce sort of had his breakout performance, and you proved to be very tough in that fight to avoid being submitted and the 3 twisters and all that stuff that you survived. What were you able to at least take away from that fight with Bryce Mitchell, in your opinion, and what went wrong in that fight from where you sit?
Yeah, man, I learned a lot in that fight. I'm constantly growing as a fighter, growing as a martial artist, and there's a lot of things that I did in the fight that I didn't like. I think first of all, I kind of, think when I got in the cage, I fight a lot off of like adrenaline and stuff like that. I get pretty pumped up before I get in the cage, but, there's a lot of sense of calmness and stuff like that. And I was very confident in my jiu-jitsu abilities and the abilities to kind of beat him. So in my head, I was so 100% sure that I was going to be able to submit him and take him out on the ground that I didn't think of it like an MMA fight. I just thought of it like, man, I really hope this guy tries to take me down. Like, I literally didn't even defend the takedowns. Like, when he went to take me down, I was like, oh, let him take me down. Watch what happens, because I know it always happens in the gym and to what other guys, whenever I get taken down, I'm able to get submissions. But, these are world-class guys. These are the best guys. I train with guys like that, but it's a little different in the gym. He has 15 minutes of a full gas tank and he's willing to use it. So for me, I just kind of realized that I can't give up positions no matter how confident I am in any position. So I think if I made him work a little bit harder on those takedowns, or if I tried to stop him, or if I, fought a little bit harder off the takedowns, he would have been a little bit more tired, and I would have got my transitions and I would have got my opportunities, because that's kind of what I was doing. I was just kind of waiting for that one opportunity, and I was going to capitalize and just smoke him. And then the fight ended and it was over. And I was like, man, what the hell happened? And I've had over 40 fights in my career, and it's never really happened like that. So, there's a lot of things I can attribute to or think about. But the one thing that I did is that I learned from the loss. I got back in the gym the next day. Pretty much as soon as I flew back, I was back in the gym, hungrier. So, I'm definitely a better fighter from losing that fight than if I won it, because I probably wouldn't have taken this fight. So, I'm really, really hungry right now, and training harder than ever and training smarter than ever.
I was talking to Bryce's manager. We were texting back and forth a couple weeks before that fight. And one thing he said to me that sort of stuck out is that no matter who he fights, they always find a way to like overlook him in some way, like undervalue him and underestimate him. Do you think you did that in a way? Like, maybe, I'm not saying you overlooked him totally because it's a fight and, you were looking to take extra steps yourself, but was there a part of you that was like, this fight's going to be a little bit easier than it turned out to be?
Well, yeah, it was the fight I wanted. I thought, I didn't think Bryce sucked or nothing like that. I didn't think he didn't have good jiu-jitsu. I just thought that, there's no way that, I can tell he's strictly a ground fighter. I thought he probably had pretty good wrestling, pretty good takedowns. I thought he was tough. I knew he could scramble, but it was a fight that I liked because I know he's a guy that wouldn't quit and stuff like that. And that's the type of guys I want to fight. Then, But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like I overlooked him, because I don't overlook anybody, man. I respect him. I know everybody's dangerous. Nobody gets the UFC, and especially gets 3 or 4 wins in the UFC by being lucky. That doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. But I definitely didn't think that his level of grappling would be as high as it was. I mean, I practiced all this stuff. The reason I was able to survive the twister was because these are things I practiced in the gym. So I didn't overlook any of that stuff. I just didn't. I just don't think I fought the fight the right way. The way that I think I had a bad game plan going into the fight. But I mean, enough of that. Like, I'm on to the next one. I learned from it. I mean, I truly believe, regardless of the scorecards of that fight, like, I think if I fought Bryce again, I would beat him. And it was a lot of game plan. Like, honestly, I think it was more what Bryce's coaches and his team did really well to capitalize on what I did wrong, because I could hear his coaches the whole time kind of coaching against me. Like, every time I would go for a sweep, they're like, hey, he's about to bump you. He's about to go for an armbar. They literally told him exactly what I was going to do before I did it. And like, you could hear them perfectly. So the whole time in the fight, I mean, honestly, it was pretty impressive. And it really sucked, because I was like, man, this guy's corner going to shut the hell up. Like, you keep telling him exactly what to do, exactly what it transitions, exactly what I'm going to do. And it was it was a little bit of annoying. And, I mean, it is what it is, though. Hats off to him. He had a good fight. He earned my respect. He's a tough kid. And, hopefully I'll see him again once I can climb my way back up to the top.
One of my favorite things about this sport, Charles, is, I wouldn't say there was animosity between you guys, but there was a competitive sort of desire to beat each other. And you get that a lot, but back and forth on social media, you guys are like hyping up the fight and you guys both really wanted to win. But I always love the post-fight photos when you guys get together and you chat and you post it on social media, and you shared one of the photos that you took with Bryce after the fight. Can you say what you guys talked about after the fight happened at UFC 249? What did you guys discuss afterwards?
Yeah, I was actually getting a bite of food, like a cheeseburger or something at the bar, because after you eat, after you fight, you obviously, it wasn't, the cheeseburger didn't taste as good because I didn't win. So I was sitting there. I was actually sitting with my mom. I just got to kind of sit with her down in the hotel lobby. And his coach came and talked to me and was like, hey, man, like, do you think if Bryce did anything different? And he was trying to figure out, like, he was really nice to me. He was like, I was just trying to figure out how come you didn't tap in the twister. I want to be able to fix Bryce's game. Like, why do you think that you didn't tap? Like, should he have maybe pulled higher on the head? Like, he was kind of just getting my advice, because I think he does respect my jiu-jitsu. He respects, certain things about me. He knows, and he was like, do you think he was pulling on the wrong spot? Do you think there's anything he could have done? They kind of just asking my advice of what he could have done different to finish it. And I was like, man, no offense, but like, I just wasn't gonna tap. Like, I wasn't gonna give up. So it wasn't anything Bryce did wrong. It just was my will not to quit. I don't think it was anything that he did technically wrong. And he was like, oh, thanks, man. And he was cool. He was a really nice guy. And then at that same time, I saw Bryce at the bar getting, he was at the bar, paying for something. So I mean, I kind of just felt that I would just go, say, he really did earn my respect. So everything I said to him, I said, hey, man, much respect. Awesome fight. You had a great game plan. You got great coaches too on your team. You got a great team. And, I just said hats off and respect. And he said, thanks a lot, man. And, it was all smiles. He asked if we could take a picture, and I asked, and it was, it was basically like that moment after you guys fight. I mean, we fought our asses off, both of us, and neither one of us quit. So usually that's when it ends like that. You guys gain each other's respect, and that's what it is. I mean, still, barring in the future, it's definitely something that I would like to get back one day. I know I get some work to do, starting this weekend with Kevin Aguilar to climb my way back up. But, this is part of the game. You win some, you lose some. But if you're able to come back, and how you come back is really what makes you a true fighter and who you are. You look at guys like George Masvidal, Robbie Lawler, these guys are the guys that have basically almost been cut from the UFC or gone, pretty much the lowest level, coming off of losses. And now they're, both superstars. Robbie, winning world champion, being world champions, and Georgie winning a BMF belt. So these are guys that I look up to in the gym, and guys that I respect. And these are it's been done before, so I know it can be done again.
When did this fight with Aguilar get offered to you?
What's today? It must have been. It was within the last week. I don't even know. Like, I was supposed to fight Kevin Miner. Is he fighting on the undercard? I think he is. There's a guy on the. No, not Kevin Miner.
Derek Miner.
So they called me like a week and a half ago and said, hey, can you fight Derek Miner at 145? I said, yeah, let's run it. Like, I'm ready. Let's go. It was going to be a little hard to make the weight, but I didn't really care. I know I could do it. It's just a little bit of, extra discipline, a little bit harder work. I've done it before, So I said, yeah. So I thought I was fighting him. He kind of pushed out. He didn't take the fight. He said he didn't want to fight me. So he said he wouldn't want to fight me on that short notice. I think probably too tough of a fight for him. He's coming off of, he has one UFC fight, one loss, so he probably didn't want to get another one and get cut from the UFC. So that's probably how his mind was working. So he took the easier fight, and I guess he's fighting someone else. I don't know, guys like 7 or 8 losses that he's fighting. So I'm sure he took the easier fight, which, it is what it is. But so then for a day, I thought I wasn't fighting. And then about 3 or 4 days ago, they called me and asked to fight Kevin Aguilar. And I said, okay, it's kind of tough because you guys just told me like about the weight cut, but I'm definitely down. It's just, I said to my manager, I didn't say to the UFC, I said, man, like, yeah, it's cool. He goes, well, actually, the fight's a lightweight. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. That's fine with me. And I know Kevin's a lightweight, too. I mean, is a featherweight too. So they just said because Kevin probably couldn't make the weight, or just make it easier for both you guys. So I didn't have a problem with it. There's no need for both of us to suffer if we're just going in there to fight each other. It's unnecessary, and it'll probably make the fight a little bit more interesting. I think we'll both be a little bit more durable. I know he's a super tough kid, has some really nasty fights. If you look at some of his legacy fights that he had in Texas or wherever he's out of, he had some nice wars. So I'd like both of us to have a full fuel tank and get ready in there. And I think you're going to see a really good war this weekend.
Yeah, because I think the reaction from fans, I know I reacted this way when Dana White went on and announced the card, was this fight between you and Kevin, this one could steal the show. This was something that really stuck out. It's one I circled right away. I'm like, ooh, this is a really good one. Is that when you thought, when you saw Aguilar's name, that this is bonus money? This is a bonus fight.
Yeah, especially since there's less fights on the card. I think there's only 10 fights in the card. There's not as many superstars. Usually I'm fighting on cards with like Conor McGregor. You saw literally I went from fighting on like the greatest card in UFC history was the last one I just fought on. It was like, I was one of the guys that kicked off the card. It was like so many superstars in the card. It's almost impossible to get a bonus on a card like that with guys like that. But this is one that I think there's more opportunities. There's less fights on the card. And then I got a game opponent. So sometimes it takes 2 to bonus, because like sometimes if you go against a guy that kind of just folds, even if you smoke him and you floor him, they're kind of like, I don't know, he didn't really it was a good performance, but the other guy really didn't do much. It wasn't really competitive. But if you get a guy in there that can take some punches, take some shots, and make it exciting, and then you get the finish, or then the fight goes a distance and it's a nasty war, then it comes fight of the night. It takes 2 to tango. So that's the way the game goes, and we'll see if Kevin Aguilar can take the shots, and we'll see how far he makes it. But I'm always going for the kill. I'm always going for the bonus. I'm always going to fight. So that's what you're going to see next weekend. You're going to see a real fight between 2 warriors, and I definitely respect this kid. I've watched his fights. Super tough, super durable, and that's really what makes him who he is. But it also is what makes me who I am. Plus, I think I got a little bit more skills being able to train all the places I have in my life.
I want to go back a little ways, if we could, to that fight in October, because I was part of the media scrum after the win over Manny Bermudez, and you had been gone for 2.5 years. You were dealing with countless injuries, and you had doctors telling you that you may not even get the chance to fight again. And I remember that conversation vividly because you were very reflective that night, and it was just a great story to get back to where you were. Outside of accomplishing your goal of becoming a champion, it's going to be pretty tough to top that night, especially to do it at the Garden, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, though, because like every night, I remember the first time I fought in the Boston Garden, it was my first UFC win ever. I submitted Sean Soriano. It was my first UFC win. I got to walk out in a Boston Bruins jersey, with my name on the back, and that was like always a goal, a dream of mine since I was a little kid, is to walk out in the Boston Garden with the Boston Bruins play, because like originally I wanted to be like a hockey player as a kid, but where the Celtics play, and walk out of that tunnel with the Rosa Bruins jersey on, and then go to the middle of the octagon and fight. And, pick up a submission win in front of, 20,000+ Bostonians and fans and friends and people I went to school with. So that was special. But this one, the last one, definitely in Boston, was super special. Coming back from a neck injury, the doctors telling me that I would never fight again. And, basically like being able to, 2 years of physical therapy and going to physical therapy 2 times a day for over a year, like, every morning, just, even the physical therapist telling me that it's probably unlikely that I would fight again. It just, it was really a dream come true to get that moment where I, picked up my biggest win in my life, picking up a first round submission over a top guy, so that was definitely going to be hard to top. But I think the only thing that could top it is getting that belt wrapped around my waist in the Garden one day. So I'm still chasing that dream.
Well, the silver lining to come out of the Mitchell fight was you signed a new multi-fight deal with the UFC. Was the fight with Bryce like the last one on your prior deal, or did the contract get renegotiated after that fight?
I had one more fight scheduled. I had one more fight on my contract. So I could have got another fight with the UFC. I would have taken another fight with the UFC because I was under contract with them. But I think the UFC recognized like what I am. I'm coming up on my 8th UFC fight. Actually, technically 9th, because one time I flew all the way to Japan to fight Mizuta Hirota, and I weighed in, and he didn't make the weight. But like I was, basically went through everything. So I said I would still fight him. He was like 6 pounds over, but basically coming up my 8th UFC fight. So I'm a veteran, and I've never not showed up. Every fight I fight my ass off. I got 4 Performance of the Nights awards. 3 Fight of the Night awards. My loss, 3 of my 4 losses are Fight of the Nights, and I don't feel like I've ever been finished. In my career, like there was one stoppage that I have one stoppage in my career against Shane Burgos, but like the ref jumped in super early. I was standing up winning the fight, so I don't feel like I've been defeated. For me, like to be defeated as a fighter is when the guy's standing over you and you're pretty much lifeless, knocked out, or submitted. So until that happens, I don't feel like I've ever been defeated. So if I'm still standing when the bell rings at the end of the fight, then for me, I don't feel defeated. So I'm just gonna keep pushing and keep getting back up if I get knocked down, and eventually I'll get my shot again. And I actually got a big shot this weekend, so I can't wait to shine.
You mentioned the ambiance of the empty arena setting, being able to hear Bryce's coaches sort of being able to call out what you're going to do before it's going to happen. Kevin hasn't experienced that yet. Do you think that's going to play a factor in this fight, that you've been there before and your coaches now can prepare a little bit differently for it?
I think it's a little bit of a different fight. I've definitely, worked with my coaches a little bit on some ideas. It's obviously short notice. There's not as much time. I had 10 weeks to get ready for Bryce, and he had 10 weeks to get ready for me. So, his coaches did a great job of getting ready and preparing him for me. But in the same breath, like I think this fight's going to be a little bit more of a war. I think Kevin's going to want to stand there and fight me. Bryce was more of a chess match. He had some good positions. He probably didn't go for some certain submissions that I think he would have liked to go for, but his coaches were smart enough to not make him rush to certain positions and do things. And he had a great game plan, and he had a great strategy. So, this one I think is going to be a little different. You're going to kind of see the dog come out of both me and Kevin, and we're going to see, who's more of the dog and who's tougher. And I think you're going to be in it for an exciting fight.
I know the goal obviously is to get a win, but you've been in the sport long enough to know how people look at things in the sport through the lenses of recency, what you did in your last fight, et cetera. Outside of getting back on track and getting your hand raised, what's your goal for Saturday night in this fight with Kevin Aguilar?
And my goal is to be able to skip. Is just to feel like I got in a real fight again. I want to show the world, that no matter if you get knocked down, no matter if you lose, that you can get back up and you can win. And, one person I saw that did it this weekend was Cody Garbrandt. He's coming off of 3 knockout losses. You see him come back and he gets one of the greatest knockouts in the history ever. Like, that was amazing. I'm sure you saw that when Cody knocked out a Sunset with the bell. It was pretty amazing. And then what he said after was inspiring. The guy has probably come back he went from being the UFC champion to losing 3 straight in a row, which I can't imagine what that would feel like. And they weren't just 3 straight in a row. There were 3 knockout losses in a row. So, everyone's question is the chin still there, all this stuff. But, that was inspiring for me to see Cody come back from that. And like I said, this stuff has all been done before. So if it's already been done before, it makes it that much easier. Even if it hasn't done before, I'd still be the one trying to do it. But it's inspiring to see all these guys go through it. And this is fighting, There's no fighter running on the roster, I think, maybe besides Khabib, that's really – undefeated and is at the top. And, even Khabib is probably lost. He's lost grappling matches. He's lost wrestling matches, but he's picked himself up and came back from them. So I just can't wait to get back in there and show the world that, just because you get knocked down, if you get back up, you can keep moving forward. And that's kind of everything that's going on in the country right now, too. It's like everyone's getting knocked down. Everyone's down, making excuses. But all you got to do is get back on and keep moving forward,
Well said. So for those who know me, pre-MMA fighting, I spent a lot of time chatting with the next wave of talents coming through the sport. And one of those individuals is a man that you're familiar with, man by the name of Dustin Lampros. 5-0, 5 finishes. Definitely someone I've had my eye on for a while. When can we expect to see him again? He's a shoo-in for the Contender Series if I'm booking it, but how's he doing?
Yeah, for sure, man. That's my young Jedi in training, Dustin. I've been working with him since he's just an amateur. He's one of my best friends. Great kid. Works super hard every day. So he's one of those guys that he got it. He got the skills, he got the goods, and he works hard. So he's doing everything that he can do, and I think he's one of those guys that's ready. He's flown across the country, even flew to Holland with me to do some Dutch kickboxing, and I love that kid. He's like a brother to me, and yeah, man. He's ready. I think I think the lockdown, he was supposed to fight up in Shamrock FC, but I think it held him back a little bit. But once he gets back in there, he's at the highest level, and he's ready. I would love to see him on the Contender show, but I think he's building up. He's building up what they got him on Shamrock. He got a good thing going, and he's still learning. So I think once he gets to the UFC, he's going to be ready to make a straight shot to the title and not have to still be learning along the way. So that's where we're trying to get him before he gets that opportunity.
A couple more things we let you go. I appreciate the time. I wanted to get your take on something else because you've trained at ATT. You've worked with him quite a bit. Colby Covington announced that he's no longer part of the team. And most people I've talked with that have worked with Colby and trained with Colby says that he's a great teammate. He's a great guy. He's not deep down the gimmick he portrays in the media behind the scenes. What's your reaction to Colby leaving ATT and the kind of teammate he is?
Yeah, I mean, he's always been a great teammate to me. He's always worked. He showed me things after practice. I have nothing bad to say about him. For me, it sounds like the reason he said he left is he just wanted the freedom to be able to do what he wants. He said, and I can understand it. There's certain limitations when you're training at a gym that you can't cross train to other gyms, and there's issues that arise. And he's the type of guy that probably likes to be able to do what he wants to do. So I can't hate on him for what he's doing. I think he knows his best for him. The kid's a world champion. So decision that he makes when it comes to his training and stuff like that, it's tough to argue if the guy's become a world champion. So, I got nothing but love for the kid. I think he's a hard worker, amazing fighter, and, I always wish him the best in the future.
And I have to end with this because obviously being from the Boston area and being from New England, sports has such a huge impact on our lives. And there's been nothing to watch from a local level, but it looks like the Boston Bruins, your 2019-2020 President Cup champions, will be the top seed in the Eastern Conference for this modified postseason that's going to potentially begin next month.
When's that start? Next month?
Yeah, July. They're saying like mid-July is the plan right now. Have you seen like how they're putting this all together? It's super confusing. But
it's super confusing, and I haven't been able to honestly even figure it out. Like I just asked you, I don't even know when to start. So I wish they would give us more information on it because that would help a lot. I don't really know exactly what's happening, but you better believe if that season's back on and they're in the playoffs or whatever way they're going to format it, I'm going to be watching. I love them. Brad Marchand, obviously NHL superstar, cool guy. The rest of the team, I was able to play a couple times against Tuukka Rask in college and shoot against him and stuff like that. So they got an exceptional team. They're Boston, and that's my favorite. That's my favorite sports team. So them and the Patriots. So hopefully they get back and I get something else to watch. But as of right now, I'm enjoying this fight and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. Charles, man, appreciate the time. Really looking forward to this fight on Saturday night against Kevin Aguilar. It's one people should definitely have circled on their cards for sure. All the best to you out in Vegas and in the fight itself, man. I appreciate the time.
I appreciate you, man. Talk soon, all right?